Hey everybody, it's me, Adnan Qureshi, the handsome voice, alongside another handsome man in Graham Houston, reporting live from the One4U Show studio. Say hi, Graham.
Hi, Graham.
I see the studio has gotten some upgrades during the last couple weeks. Is that correct?
This is high definition, and I got some plants and a little brass kitty cat.
Oh, right, high definition, running at a full 240p, I think, right? That's high definition?
Yeah, high definition which means absolutely nothing in the world of Zoom.
Gotcha. Yeah, absolutely. You're 100% right.
We love you, Zoom. You're making the world go round right now, right?
And you're helping us make some new interview content. We got a guest today, Graham.
Who is it?
It is Victor Lucas of the Electric Playground, EPN.TV, Reviews on the Run. Guest of ours 5 years ago. He's been gracious enough to give us his time again today. And so we talked to him about some stuff in regards to the quarantine, some things involving gaming and entertainment, and I think it's a really good chat. You think we should get to that, Graham?
I definitely think we should get to that.
Well, let's hop to it. Look who I've got back with me. It's the lovely and talented Victor Lucas. What a beautiful brushing bride he is, isn't he, ladies and gentlemen?
Oh, geez. I'm good. I've never been introduced like that before.
Good. Out of your 25-year history of covering media and video games and such on TV and the internet, I'm glad that I could still deliver a first for you. Vic, how you been the last 5 years?
It's been that long since I've been on your show.
Yeah, but it's been a few months since I've been on your show, which is still a trip. So, but It's good that we finally got the chance to reconvene here. I offered to get you a Super Nintendo at one point. I picked you up from the airport, stuff like that.
Yes. Yeah, you're a sweet man. My kid was young when you picked us up and you drove us to Disneyland, and because she sees you pop up in my Animal Crossing every time you log on, and I'm playing Animal Crossing with Ruby, we see Adnan is online, and she's like, "Oh, Adnan," and I keep trying to say to her, "Do you remember Adnan? He drove us to Disneyland," but she was too young.
Yeah, it was like 3 years ago, and now I'm recording live from my Animal Crossing island right now. I visited yours. You've yet to come to mine.
I know. I'm very efficient when I get in there because it's such a time suck, and I've reviewed the game, and I don't normally do that. I don't normally stick with the game because I've got new stuff to play, or these days it's a lot of old stuff. I can't believe how much retro content I make these days, but anyways, I've got to keep moving. So when I do play Animal Crossing, which I do because it's amazing during this pandemic,
right.
I generally just go and collect all the fruit that I've grown and sell my turnips and check in. I usually just do my chores and then get out. And it's like get the money, pay something down, and then get out. So I don't really. And my daughter's playing it on. She's got a Switch Lite, and she's playing it totally differently than me. She's dressing up everything. She's changing her costume and her look all the time. I'm just like making the island the way that I want it to.
Mm-hmm. I've been trying to just complete as many tasks as possible. Like it's become basically one of the perfect quarantine games. I mean, you gave it a 10 out of 10. It's almost like it's a game that has basically come at the very right time for all of us right now. You know what I mean? For it all to switch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we're going to remember this quarantine, every game-playing fanatic out there, as the Animal Crossing quarantine, which is it's disturbing and weird and kooky and insane, and there's a poetry about it as well, which is absurd and crazy.
I know.
It is amazing that humanity gets to grapple with this at a time when we have more ability to connect with each other than any other time in history, and I think back, because it's in the news all the time, to what the people of the Spanish flu of 1918 would have had to contend with, just the fear of it. And I've read stories, right? Like people that were completely traumatized and then had a real challenge being close to anybody after that. And just became very concerned about getting sick again. And, I'm sure that we're all dealing with our own mental strife around this plague right now, this pandemic, but I think that we also have access to entertainment to escape to and connection, like things like this, and lots of ways to kind of find perspective throughout all this, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a very difficult time for all of us, but like we're doing the most of what we can with all of this, and that's why I wanted to have you on. I figured if we're going to talk about media and games and stuff that's kept us occupied during this time, I thought who better to talk with than Mr. Victor Lucas, somebody who has spent 25 years covering everything cool, as you continue to do each and every day still, and it's admirable that you put out still all this content that people can take their minds off stuff. You're still trying to cover this media as best as possible, and giving suggestions with those great like first 5 videos and your Sunday features. So it's all great stuff. We'll plug all that at the end of the show. People should absolutely check out your content in the meantime.
Oh, thanks, brother. Thank you very much. I don't know another way to be, like I've certainly, I don't have things to check off on what I want to accomplish so much, there's things that I would love to see happen, but with EP and with what I'm able to provide into the world, but I've been very fortunate, and this last 4.5 years of transitioning off of television to kind of producing content for YouTube has been a whole new, way to learn how to connect and how to make content. And I feel very satisfied, but I also feel very much like that's what I do. And that's what I wake up and I go, well, I got to make some stuff today, and we got to get it out there. And it's definitely a little bit different now, for sure. I mean, one of the challenges that we have with our company, our production company, is like we can't book any extra production work. We can't go and shoot documentary work or behind the scenes stuff, or we've done some commercials and things. We can't do that right now. So we have no source of revenue. So I've had to put some production on hold that we normally would do, like the rundowns and stuff. And so that's something that we've faced with our company. And I haven't really wanted to bang the drum about that, because I don't, everybody's got their own challenges. But that's a reality that we're facing. So we're making a lot of stuff still, but it's less than I would like to. But it's the reality that we're in right now.
Well, on the positive side, that front though, is that you're with your daughter a lot more. I'm sure these days, you don't have to go out anywhere to do things like that. And so I know that for me, like personally, like it's the hardest thing for me is that because all public events are basically ceased for the moment, is that I started following my dream in that 5 years, and I got in the wrestling industry, and I've been ring announcing and commentarying and doing a bunch of different things like character stuff. And it's been a blast, and absolutely has been wonderful for my mind and my soul. Absolutely.
Congratulations, man.
Thank you. Oh, I've done so many things. I've talked about it on the show. I've done so many things I never thought I would do in my life, because I finally went, you know what, let's just see what happens if I try to make wrestling like work. And it's just like doing stuff like I never thought I would be working like be on television every week on the local stations over here. I never thought I'd get a chance to work sometimes with New Japan Pro Wrestling, because that's my ultimate dream, is to be a part of New Japan Pro Wrestling. But and I've had the chance to actually do a little bit with them, which was a crazy thing. Like even if it was like just small things, where I still appeared at the Tokyo Dome in a thing that was like an extra thing, but it was still cool.
That's amazing.
Yeah, right. But so in other words, though, with all the stuff that's going on right now, we need all the distractions that we need. And I think this has been the perfect time to catch up on backlog stuff. And that's exactly what I've been doing as far as my gaming and such like that, because we live in such a plentiful, bountiful world as far as entertainment and media, and especially video games, that I finally had a chance to catch up with some of that. So that's why I wanted to talk to you about, like, stuff that you've been using to keep your mind off of, all the terrible things in the world in the meantime. Like I like being a subscriber to Xbox Game Pass has been great, because there's a lot of stuff there that I've been wanting to play and I got around to, like a fantastic game. I know you got around to playing some, I got around to playing and absolutely loving The Outer Worlds, if you remember that one.
Wonderful game.
Absolutely. I thought it was a great, came out of like left field, because I didn't even know what it was at all, really. And then I played it and I was just like, oh, this is basically just Fallout in a different setting. But I think what The Outer Worlds did so well is it does dialogue, it does the camaraderie, it does all that stuff, because I put a lot of emphasis into my charisma in that game, and it made it so like I could talk. Yeah, I did. Yeah, absolutely. Right.
What a surprise.
Yeah. And because of that, but it was nice about that is that you don't have to shoot your way out of every situation. There was a lot
Yeah.
of situations in that game I was able to talk my way through, which in other games you can't do because you just have to kind of run and gun or like attack and fight your way out. And that's really been a game that I put that sunk a lot of my time that I was really happy I was able to get to.
What a shrewd deal that Microsoft picked up Obsidian. You know, like
Mhm.
they have got themselves a world-class RPG maker now, you know, and Outer Worlds is the beginning of something massive for Xbox and for Obsidian.
Absolutely. Do you know how well it's done sales wise? I think it's been doing all right. I don't know if it's been doing like amazing, but I think it's done all
I,
right for right.
yeah, I think it's done. I think it's done quite well. It was definitely one of the best games of 2019, and it was, you know, it's a Microsoft-owned property, right? Because they own Obsidian owned this, the rights to it, and then they acquired Obsidian, even though 2K published the first game. So there'll be probably a partnership there, and it might even be multi-platform for sequels and stuff. But it's an excellent acquisition on the part of Xbox because it creates a world, you know, and that's what this is about at this stage. It's not just a one and done type of game or a sequel that comes out that's kind of a, you know, you stack on some new features onto something and you put a number on the end of it and you release it. Now it's about how do you extend the brand and how do you sort of open doors to lots of interpretations of this. So I and the legwork has been done, partially funded by 2K, which I'm sure Xbox appreciated, but got Outer Worlds into kind of public mind share, and we know about it now. And so now the incredible storytellers at Obsidian can augment, and they can come up with a new way to approach the game, and then they can share the IP with, yeah, I don't know, comic book people and maybe other developers that approach characters from the Outer Worlds in a different vantage point. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, it's under the guidance of Phil Spencer. It's really exciting to see what Microsoft is doing. They're really an incredible game making company. I'm very very stoked for the future of Xbox and what this team is about to do.
I mean, yeah, it's been great, like because of that, and they built a foundation on something that they're just going to build upon, which is going to be very exciting. But like when you think about foundations and stuff that like may have already been established and brought to the modern era, I played a game that you just recently reviewed. Played some of Streets of Rage 4. That's a great new take on an old classic, and done with such absolute, you can tell there was a lot of love and passion put into that project that I played. That just, and it's just like how when Doom came out in 2016, it's like the perfect blend of new school and old school. And I think Streets of Rage 4 falls into that category too. The music's fantastic, the beat 'em up action is solid and stuff like that. You can play it online, and that's a great thing to be able to play. At least now all the online play is become even bigger now because that's how we can play with our friends.
Well, you know what, Nintendo is crushing it because they have never taken their eyes off of the value of their prizes, you know,
Right.
of the way their characters and the way that they have made games and that connection that they have crafted with players. They've maybe had some missteps technologically, but the Switch, I think, was a product perfectly timed for people to appreciate and to pick up on. But the consistency of the software that Nintendo has provided has just been remarkable. And Sony has also been crushing it in terms of horsepower and single player fidelity and story structure and character stuff. Um, and Microsoft has really pivoted. I think what they've done is uh, they floundered trying to kind of be the all-in-one solution and make a play almost more for what Microsoft as a corporation meant for entertainment, as opposed to what Xbox could, you know, uh, provide to the game playing public out there. And they've shifted that focus. They fell in love with all kinds of technology. But I
Mhm.
think what these companies are all showing is that the fundamental connection that we've had to video games, which is rooted in stuff from the 80s and the 90s, is still incredibly valuable in 2020. And what's really been shocking to me is, with the emergence of all of these mini consoles and the retro gaming scene and the emulation that's out there, and remade consoles like what Analog has provided for the Super Nintendo and the Sega Genesis, is that there is this cultural, um, heartfelt connection to the classic styles of games and the classic brands and the classic ways that we play, that is really paying off now. And the video game industry has a predilection for chasing technology, in exciting ways, but also in disruptive ways, but also in ways that ultimately can come back and bite them on the ass. And I
Well,
think we saw that with Connect, and I think we saw that a little bit with VR, and I think we've seen that a little bit with free to play and digital distribution and DLC. And I think there is this movement coming back to, we're starting to see single player campaigns becoming a back of the box feature again. And the fact that we don't need to, and people, you get the whole game is a feature again, and and that's an answer, I think, to a lot of rightfully disappointed game consumers out there who remember the glory days and feel like people just push this medium in ways that were maybe not the way to keep it as vibrant and healthy as it should be, and I think we're getting a lot of those reminders right now.
You just reminded me when we're talking about like how the medium has changed and how we look to the past, and as far as that, it's an industry that we try to preserve in a certain way. But then I think about something I was just thinking about last night, and you reminded me of this, was with digital distribution, like certain games that came out on digital only, when they're pulled from digital platforms, they don't exist
Right.
anymore. No way to preserve those as easily as we could, because I was thinking about when I was playing Streets of Rage 4, how good, if you had played it on the 360 or PS3 back in the Scott Pilgrim versus the World game that had come out, the fantastic 2D beat 'em up, and it was great, and it was critically praised, and I think it did very well. But it's a game that doesn't exist anymore. You cannot buy it anymore, and I still have it on my 360. And if I delete it, it's gone. I don't have access to it anymore. So it's a weird thing.
That is total bullshit, and that is absolutely something that the video game industry needs to fix and respect the consumer in some real ways. People should be able to call up that receipt and say, look, man, I paid for this. I want to be able to play it. And the video game industry does not do enough to kind of answer that, but I think we're moving in that direction. And I honestly, I do believe that digital distribution is a part of that solution, because one of the massive challenges that we have in our medium is that technology does improve, and it doesn't make sense to, like, I would love to be able to own a Nintendo machine that allows me to play my classic Game Boy games on modern
You've talked
machines.
about this for years. This is
Yeah.
something you have talked about for absolutely years.
But that's a real expense. That's a lot of money on the part of Nintendo to make that happen. It's, conceptually it isn't. A Switch, a Nintendo Switch with DS and 3DS and Game Boy ports on it seems like a very smart way to go, and it's a great way to kind of tip your hat to all of the established consumers that have picked up the portable machines that Nintendo has released over the years. But that's an expense, and having the accurate emulation software and the hardware and all that stuff put into architecture that they can get to a price point that would be accessible and appreciated by the consumers out there. That's a lot to overcome. Theoretically, the idea that you would have access to a digital account of software that wouldn't disappear and would be agnostic of the hardware that you play it on is where we need to get to. If we don't have access to all of this physical connection to this physical library, at least get us to the point where we can accumulate a library that will not disappear, that we won't have this Scott Pilgrim problem.
Right. Would you also though think about like when you talk about Nintendo and how they use their backlog, they could do that, but Nintendo also has that business model of reselling us the same game, generation after generation. You know what I mean? So we still have some of that. It's just not exactly the way that you would. It's not like since I bought
I
it
know.
here, I don't
I
get
know.
it down the line. But
Well, you
it
know what we do? We get the taste of what subscription in the future is going to be. You know, this
and that's
Nintendo
where something
Switch,
like Game Pass comes in for sure.
exactly. A Nintendo Switch Online is not perfect, but it's really freaking cool that if you want online services for your Nintendo machine, you're also going to get Super Nintendo and NES games to play.
A great
And
catalog of NES and Super Nintendo games.
some of the
So good.
best games ever made, right? And
Yeah.
and important in present day. Should it be the entire library? Yeah. Should it be all 1,000 Super Nintendo games? And would people pay an extra $5 or $10 a month to have that service? They sure would. And would that bring in billions of dollars into Nintendo's revenues every month, or every year? Yes, it would.
Mhm.
We know that. We're building towards that, and that's why when I see things like Stadia and the X Cloud and those services are going to succeed based on the access to library that they provide, you know.
Mhm.
And what shocks me is that Microsoft or that Google didn't buy a company like Steam or didn't buy GOG.com or so. It didn't buy some
Oh.
kind of service that you could also download to and buy all of that user sort of information and then flip a switch on subscribing to cloud streaming. They've gone all in on a cloud streaming um, architecture with a very limited library. But it's very easy to imagine ways that Stadia could be an incredibly big powerhouse in video games just by adding software. And the non-limited minutes. Okay. Uh, and the same can be said for what Microsoft is planning, and certainly, Sony is planning for this as well. Nintendo is definitely going to keep all of their cards close to their vest. But yeah, we need to get to a point where we have access to this software forever, and we don't have to think about the hardware where we're going to play it on, because the hardware is the limiting factor, unfortunately. Like connecting an old console to a new TV is a pain in the ass. It's not an easy thing. And running a game the way that you remember it on emulation kit is not an easy thing, and not an incredibly satisfying thing as well.
That's why
So
you're a big proponent on the analog Super NT, because you've been able to just plug in an HDMI cable and stuff, and it's not emulation; it's running off actual hardware. Correct?
yeah. Yes, I am. But more than that incredible piece of hardware that they made, it's the access to that software. Because I have a library of Super Nintendo games and Genesis games, and I'm making new content talking about this stuff. And what really has become shocking for me is how much that conversation is still viable and valuable in 2020. I mean, I just reviewed the TurboGrafx 16 Mini, and I didn't play these TurboGrafx games when they first came out, and I had a blast, and the Sega Genesis Mini was so much fun to discuss, and people were really, really interested in the software and the emulation and the way things handled and played, and loved that. I loved the Super Nintendo stuff, and it's not that I love that stuff more than what's being made now, but it can coexist, and I think in the diet of a consumer today, it's got to be very analogous to the way that people can watch an old episode of Friends and still get something out of it. And Friends is a major part of what HBO Max is about to serve up. That's a show from the 90s, man. And video games from the 90s are as relevant and valuable to people today as anything. HBO's Max is going to have Westworld and Friends on it, you know,
Yeah.
and what we should have out of modern machines and modern access to software is The Last of Us 2 and Battle Arena Toshinden. There shouldn't be this massive like disparity and like those games are dead to me kind of quality that we have in video games. And honestly, like watching old episodes of Electric Playground underlines that as well. It's like, holy shit, there was some incredibly creative, individuals that didn't know what the hell they were making or how they were going to do it, but they did it, and they made the software that was meaningful and really mattered. And it's there, like, there's hardly any way to play it legally,
Right, because
stupid.
there's less ways to experience some super creative games that never got the light of day. Like they
Yes.
remaster certain games like Katamari, which was super creative, and you can get that on the Switch now, or like Voodoo Vince, which came out, which was cool. But where's Kung Fu Chaos? That game, that great game from the original Xbox, probably the best replay system like ever. There's so many like really like creative idea games that we don't get anymore, like a Graffiti Kingdom or something like that.
The list is long, man, and I have a whole bunch of Atari Lynx cartridges, and I've got a bunch of Sega CD games. I mean, Sega should release a Sega CD Mini. They should just have all of the Sega. There wasn't a huge library. They should just deliver it all. There should be a Saturn Mini and a Dreamcast Mini, but then it's more hardware and it's more HDMI sources, and it's, you almost get to the point where, why the hell do we have to keep buying these things again? Like,
it's the almighty dollar.
Buy it once. I know, but and there's certainly a parallel with going from DVD to Blu-ray and VHS, for sure. But it's really, really gross in games. That it's not even really handled. I mean, there was a collection of classic stuff in every generation. It's like, here's the last stuff, and here's 20 of those games on a disc now. Or here's a bunch of arcade games on a disc. But it's never authoritative. It's never with behind the scenes stuff. It's never definitive. It's not the whole collection. And the video game industry, and there's so many incredible games that have just gone. They're gone. Like, nobody knows where the rights are. The developers have moved on. They've scattered in a bunch of different ways. And don't get me started on the piss poor way that the game industry has kind of really shepherded the teams. That's the hard thing, because I've known a lot of these people for so long, and I know how hard it is to put a team together, because I put one of the best teams in media together throughout my time, and that was the hardest work that I did. That was the most satisfying and hardest work that I did, was just finding the right assemblage of people to be able to do what we did, which was impossible. And I know that. And everybody that was around and saw what we did, we went from this, is it going to even be a TV show to is it going to be a cable access show in one market to it's going to be a nationally syndicated thing, and then it's going to go to cable. And then we were in broadcast, on you didn't even need Cablevision. You could just find it low on the dial on markets all over North America. And we were rating well, and it was about games, and nobody had ever done anything like that. And I knew how hard it was to get there. And a lot of people that have been following us for a long time knew how hard it was to get there. And I feel like the video game community has multiple stories of that, of these developers that achieved the impossible. United Front Games, Bungie in its early days, and BioWare, and Neversoft, and for whatever reason, a lot of these studios just got squeezed or pushed, and people got burnt out and they left. And instead, they should have been nurtured and cultivated and allowed to kind of continue to find innovative ways to create together forever, And that's sad. But I guess there has to be this parallel with the way that the people that make games get treated, and the way that the software that they make also gets treated, this disposability. And like, one of the things that just burns my ass like today is the fact that no one knows who makes Fortnite, and everybody knows who Ninja is. And that's just total bullshit to me. Like, and I had no offense about Ninja. I think, hats off to his success, but people that play video games should not be more respected and known than the people that make these things,
Mhm.
And that's the world that we live in.
It is. That is an unfortunate thing that some people are able, aren't able to get completely credited for the hard work that they do to kind of entertain all of us. And I know that's hopefully a situation that as time goes on can clear up. But I wanted to move from, something that doesn't burn your ass. I did wanted to know, so while we're getting close to the end here, just what is it that you've been able to really enjoy during this time of being more at home, even though you're still making content? Have you been able to revisit some stuff like outside of maybe what you've put out as content yet? I don't know, but other than like your 16-bit superhero stuff, but what's really been like occupying your time as far as like either gaming or in media? What have you been watching? What have you been playing that's really like kind of recaptured you or capturing you for the first time that you may have missed out on during this time?
Well, to be honest, like, I review a lot of movies and TV shows and all that stuff, but I've been finding it very hard to focus on linear media, and to just sit down and have a story told to me. I watched The Rise of Skywalker again, and I've got some thoughts on that, and I might put something together around the Star Wars films and sort of revisiting all of that stuff. And that brought me in, and I've watched some Clone Wars, and that has brought me in. But I've been really digging playing games now, like playing video, like I always do. But during this pandemic, it has been incredibly gratifying. And there's been a whole bunch of great ones, like Persona 5,
Mhm.
the
That's in my
Royal,
backlog. I still have to get to.
incredible, and Final Fantasy 7 remake, and Resident Evil 3 I loved. I know a lot of people were disappointed. I thought it was awesome. And of course Animal Crossing, and it's just been boom, 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 a lot of really big, great titles. And then I've been playing a lot of cartridges that have really impressed the hell out of me. I haven't watched any of that stupid Tiger King BS. It's been fascinating to watch the talk show hosts. I really admire Kimmel, but I think Stephen Colbert is just amazing. I love his work. So it's been amazing to see them at home and grappling with this and trying to figure out how to use the technology on their own, and realizing that they're out of touch a little bit with how you have to kind of use what's around you, that a lot of YouTubers kind of have to learn. And it's coming from a guy from TV that had to kind of deal with a lot of, and still, like, I've got a lot to learn with streaming and all of this stuff even to this day. But it's been fascinating to watch the resourcefulness of some of these TV hosts. But the one thing that I definitely have been blown away by is The Last Dance. And I cannot, like, if they served up all 10 episodes, I would watch them all in a row. I can't stop watching that show. And I've got this thing where sometimes I'll be playing it. You know what this Last Dance is, right? It's the Michael Jordan documentary on
No,
ESPN.
no, I did not.
And it's on Netflix here in Canada.
Oh,
It is absurdly well made. It's a massive rating success for ESPN, so they're doing fine. Even though there's no live sports, they've got this Jordan documentary that everybody's talking about. It's incredible, because that is my era. That's when I was watching NBA like crazy, and I loved all of those athletes. I've met all of them except for Jordan, because EP allowed us entry into. I met Shaq and Kobe and Penny Hardaway, and
but you missed Jordan, huh? Out of all
never
those,
got to.
being such a big basketball guy.
I missed Jordan, and I never got to see him live. And an interesting story is that I had season tickets to the Vancouver Grizzlies in '96 or '97 or whenever they were here. But I had to give them back. I had to get a refund on because I was using all the money that I had to kind of keep going on Electric Playground, and I couldn't justify spending the couple $1,000 or whatever it was to have season tickets to the Grizzlies. But that was my era, and I got to I would watch NBA games every weekend, and I had time to follow sports. I don't have any of that time now. But it's amazing to go back through this window, through this well-edited, beautifully composed documentary series. And sometimes I'll be playing a game, and I'll have my phone running a podcast or a little YouTube video or something like that, and I've put on The Last Dance while I've been playing I don't know, whatever the hell I was reviewing recently, and I couldn't focus on the game. I'm just like watching all of this incredible footage and I would just stop the game and I'd put it on my TV, and I pop
It's what's
some
consumed
corn.
you during this time, man. Just like how Outer Worlds consumed me, Last Dance is consuming you, and it's a great piece of media. Like, you know, like revisiting
awesome.
something like that. I'm
Yep.
revisiting also as far as shows. Like, I don't know if you ever watched a very seminal anime back in the day called Cowboy Bebop, but I've like
I watched the
rewatched.
movie. Yeah.
Okay. That's the movie is like, you know, like almost separate thing of the disconnect. The show itself stands the test of time even 20 plus years later because it's so cool and it's so jazzy and it's still done so well. And it's been really nice kind of revisiting that. And then also just because I've only had 2 trophies left in it with the New Game Plus and the Ultimate, I've started replaying the seminal Spider-Man game that came out a couple years ago for the PS4. And
Don't
that
get me
game
started on that.
yeah.
I can't not play that game. Like we have it. I have a PlayStation upstairs, and I've played it a little bit with my kid, and it like I start and I don't want to do anything else. That's a game that honestly, if I'm reflecting on this last generation of software, I think that's the best thing that PlayStation put out in this.
I
last
think
gen.
so too. I liked it more than God of War, honestly.
Yeah.
Or like Horizon Zero Dawn. The funny thing, I'll tell you this because I've told Graham this, who's on the show too, is that like I didn't like Horizon Zero Dawn as much as a lot of people did. I did not dislike it, but I played it after Breath of the Wild.
Yes.
And so there was a lot of points in Horizon Zero Dawn that would annoy me. That this would not annoy me in Breath of the Wild because
I know.
Yeah, because it was like there were points where Horizon would send you on a mission and you have to go through all these enemies because that was the place where like when Breath of the Wild
you couldn't climb every mountain or there was
correct.
paths. Yeah.
I couldn't. Breath of the Wild, I could find my own way to do certain things, and Horizon, like, I don't want to fight these guys. And Zelda, I don't have to fight these guys if I don't want to. Stuff like that.
Breath of the Wild's the best game I've ever played, and it is the fact that you are injecting your own story into the game. It's almost like an MMO that you play alone in a way. You know, like there's some
That's threads, a good
threads,
yeah.
But you're basically able to make up the game the way you want to make it up. But Horizon is definitely structured and narrative driven, and there's a lot of sort of straight sort of progression. Beautifully made game, but we did a versus of that between the two games, and I think it was with Johnny Millennium on that one, and we both agreed
might have
that,
been.
we both agreed that Zelda is a better game. I mean, it's my favorite game. I know it's Johnny's favorite game. It's a lot of people's favorite game. It's probably your favorite game.
No, Beyond Good and Evil, man. Remember? And I'm still waiting on the pulse of Beyond Good and Evil 2 to just tick away at some point. And, you know, time's ticking. And now we got that weird trailer. I guess, like, I don't know about you. I thought that new kind of re-reveal of Beyond Good and Evil 2 was kind of weird because tonally it was so different from the original game. And I was just like, I'm going to be on board only because I'll play whatever Beyond Good and Evil 2 is. But I'm cautiously optimistic right now about, even if we even get it made, you know?
Yeah, and the whole idea of crowdsourcing all of the content and everything like that just feels a little bizarre. It might turn out, I mean, Ubisoft is definitely a revolutionary company. It's a company that has reinvented itself and sort of challenged the manufacturer of game software many times over its lifespan.
Yes.
And they may do it again with this one. You know, we'll see.
We'll see what happens. I know we're pushing a little bit of time, so I just wanted to get to that last thing I wanted to get with you just real quick, which was, you know, now that hopefully whenever we get a chance to start moving past this, who knows, it could be 2 months from now, it could be a year from now, who knows, but like, where do you see, because I know like movies are getting pushed back, and now like, I know it delayed, like to me, The Outer Worlds, it delayed the Switch version of The Outer Worlds from coming out and stuff like that. So
yeah,
what do you see happening with media, with games, with movies, with music, with even live sporting events like pro wrestling and stuff? What do you think, just your personal opinion, it's not like, you know, how do you think we're going to continue when we're finally able to calm back down with some of this stuff?
I mean, that's a very open-ended question.
How about gaming and movies?
Well, here's what I think is happening right now.
Okay.
The world is waking up to games. The world is waking up to the cultural significance and the importance of video games in a really profound way.
Which is something you've been fighting to show people for 25 years.
The last Zoom call that I was just before we started talking about this stuff was with CNN, and they wanted to ask me questions about a bunch of different games. They've run a few of my segments already, and they've done very well. They just told me that lots and lots of affiliates and lots of TV stations and lots of broadcasters have been running, because it's not just on CNN. They have a huge chunk of affiliates across the world. They've been running those pieces, not because of me, because of video games are fascinating, and they are a profound piece of escapism that everybody is cluing into, you know, and people are experiencing it sometimes now in a real way right now, because it allows people, whether they're playing Animal Crossing or Final Fantasy VII Remake or whatever, Plague Inc. even on mobile, it allows people to kind of subvert what is right in front of them in a way that movies can't and TV can't. And once you crack open that door, it's very hard to look at that linear entertainment and not think of the things that it's not providing you, you know? And I think that that's true for, and I feel like, I say this a lot, I feel like the blanket sort of branding of calling somebody a gamer is incredibly reductive, because it sort of puts people, and I think this industry is so guilty of this, puts people into these clubhouses that are so destructive. But
You think it separates us, is what you're saying? You'd rather like
yeah,
yeah.
it turns us into, you know, it's so stupid. And I think we're consumers of stories and entertainment. And I think once people get past this idea that they don't have to be a gamer to enjoy video games, and they actually genuinely do enjoy a video game, they're forever changed. And that's happening right now with this pandemic. We're going to see a lot more people actively participating in the purchase and the consumption of video games than we could have imagined. So in a lot of ways, this pandemic is going to be very beneficial for, you know, the future development of incredible video game entertainment. VR is also getting a huge boon from this, and we got a long way to go with VR until it's, you know, massively adopted. But a lot of people are escaping on all of this. So video games, I think, coming out of this in the future, after the staffing issues and the work from home issues and the leaks and all the other bullshit that's going on around gaming as a medium right now, sort of settles down and people get to work, there is going to be a hungry audience out there for this material, and that is definitely exemplified by the pickups on the CNN stuff that I've been doing. But the other side of it is the video game sort of attack at production, and you can see this through the Unreal Engine real-time production adoption that's happened in the production world, in the film production world. That's going to grow, and we're going to see a lot of incredible real-time animation and incredible real-time visual effects and matte paintings, animated matte backdrops and things like that, like we're seeing in The Mandalorian. That is going to be a huge part of the future, and that's also going to create an opportunity for people to social distance in, you know, on stages. They're going to be able to create the illusion, a real-time illusion, empty out a lot of the people that would necessarily need to be there, maybe generate a lot of the lighting from the screen technologies, because I mean that seems to be the next way to go. Is you've got screens all around a person, you've got cameras positioned, and it creates the illusion of being in a real space, and then you inject lighting through those screens. Then you're dealing with 360-degree wraparound, real-time, you know, environment shooting into a 2D camera that doesn't need people around it. I think that's going to be adopted, and that's also coming from games. So ultimately, I've known this since I created EP, but ultimately we're moving towards games being the preeminent form of storytelling and media consumption on Earth. And it's, you know this, Graham knows this, everybody watching this knows this, that video games are the coolest form of communication that human beings have created. now more people are waking up to that.
Oh, that's absolutely, you got a visionary mind, my friend. That's what's put you ahead for 25 years. And I always just love, anytime I've gotten the opportunity to speak to you over the course of the last 5 years that I've now known you, it's always been cool. I really appreciate you coming on, giving me some of your time again. Much appreciated, my friend.
My pleasure, man.
Yeah,
I'm grateful that you care. I'm grateful that you watch.
Oh, of course, man. I've been watching for a solid 18 years now, and I still keep watching, brother.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So as we're winding down here, please go ahead and plug the EP, where you can find EP, where we can find you on social media, all that jazz, please.
Primarily, it is you can find all of our content on our YouTube channel. It's at youtube.com/EPNTV, and we're putting up a lot of content. We're putting up classic episodes. So please do come and enjoy and join up and comment and be a part of the community and share the material wherever you'd like to. I appreciate your support. I'm on Instagram as Batwing, and I try not to do too much selfie stuff. That the stuff kind of creeps me out. But I take pictures of this insane reality that I've been able to build. And
so you don't look at mine because I've got all these selfies of me at all times, right?
Well, it's a weird thing to point the clearly I don't mind being in front of the camera. That's what my job has been. But it's weird for me to point the camera at myself.
I'm right there with you, Vic.
Yeah, it's a weird thing. But I appreciate that when people want that connection, and I know a lot of creators feel the same way. And sometimes when I'm on their Instagram page and it's not about them at all, that's also weird too, because it's like pictures of the things in their lives or the food that they're eating and everything. So yeah, it's a weird thing. Instagram. So there needs to be a healthy balance, I think, to have a good Instagram page where it's not just all about you. Right. I don't know. I think too much about shit like that. I'm on Twitter under Victor_Lucas, and thanks for watching.
Of course. Anything else you want to add real quick? Or is that good?
Yes, actually. You asked about some things that I've really discovered and enjoyed out of the pandemic. I bought baseball gloves for my daughter and my wife and I a couple of years ago. And every day we use these. And it's awesome. And it's pretty awesome to play catch with, especially my 8-year-old daughter. And she's got a wicked little arm. And sometimes I have to say, "Don't whip it at me, kid. You're going to break my nose. Got to keep this my money maker. I got to look okay tomorrow."
It's on the internet every day. People got to look at it. And I can't be like, "Yo, Ruby got that arm. She going to be a pitcher." Broke my nose, yo.
And I'm waiting for that. And I've broken this nose 3 or 4 times in my life. But I'm waiting for that one where my kid breaks the nose. But I love playing catch with her. It's so, and my wife and we're all playing catch together. It's awesome. And I encourage everybody to social distance, be be cognizant of how much outside time you're doing, because if we all are outside, then we're right back to at the beginning of all this shit. But also do get outside in your house, around your house, and do something like play catch or frisbee or something like that with somebody. It's good. Somebody that's in your circle, though.
Yeah.
Don't be playing catch with somebody you don't know, because you're
go to the supermarket and be like, "Hey, you want to play catch? Cool. Let's get as close as possible. Let's catch it from 3 inches away."
You could stay 6 feet away, but you'd have to use hand sanitizer after every time you caught them.
Yeah. The ball's just covered in grease and stuff.
I don't know if that would be that fun.
We'll make it fun, Vic. We'll make it fun. You've broken your nose 3 times. I'm in the wrestling business. Have somehow not broken mine once just yet. Knock on wood. Yeah. Just taking some bumps from here and there. But no, thank you again for being here. Guys, thank you guys for watching. So yeah, please subscribe to EP Daily. Please subscribe here. Follow the channel here, One4UShow, the ONE, the number 4 letter U. Follow Graham on social media. He's Yep, at Graham Husted. You can follow me on both Twitter and now with Instagram at @D-Adnan. When wrestling opens back up, feel free to book me at bookhandsomevoice@gmail.com. And What you got? What you got there? It's that little
Game
mini
Boy.
thing.
Game Boy Micro.
Oh, I'm so jealous. I've wanted
Just
one
happened
of
to be
those.
Charging beside me here, so it's a little old school widget. There's my Instagram shot.
There you go, right there. If anyone wants to mail me a Game Boy Micro, it'd be totally great, so I can remix some old Dragon Ball games on the Game Boy Advance. In any case, once again, thank you for being here. Thank you guys for watching, and once again, it's been another episode that has been One for You.